design, and then there's architecture. How do these three professionals fit together? And what would be the new tools or methodologies in which are being discussed all across, like in India or outside?
Okay, then let's understand what are the roles of these three professionals first, and then get into the depth of understanding what are the interfacing tools and what are these regulatory tools which shape our cities. So urban planning is spatial allocation of resources, like we discussed earlier. Urban design is the design of urban environment, very simply explained. And the architectural design is the design of buildings and spaces confined to a plot. Now, as we can understand, all these three relate to each other at some point. Now, if we consider a hypothetical case of a large township, the urban planner would be required to assess existing resources in and around the site, project future resident and employed population, and spatially allocate resources to build neighborhoods and markets, separated by streets and public spaces. Parallelly, the urban designer would keep designing the environment for these neighborhoods because the resources have to gel with the kind of designs that are envisioned. So design of neighborhoods, design of green areas, public spaces, street elevations, frontages, and a lot more. At this point, both the urban planning and urban design outputs have to complement each other. Remember that both of them have the same agenda of having quality cities and quality urban environment. They are not at cross purposes here. Then the urban designer is required to create codes or bylaws to achieve the envisioned urban environment. This is specifically because the urban designer is the one who's equipped to understand the kind of urban environment that he's envisioned and what should be the tools required to achieve that kind of an urban environment. Now remember, urban environment doesn't built by a single agency. Multiple agencies are involved, private developers are involved, architects contribute towards building the environment. Again, envisioned by the urban designer. Now it becomes tricky. Because if the urban environment is to be built by various stakeholders, the codes that they need to follow have to ensure that the environment keep building up like a jigsaw puzzle, piece by piece, just the way an urban designer has envisioned.
Mm-hmm.
If these codes are also the point of contention between urban planners, urban designers and architects and engineers, then the system becomes complicated. Let's take a step back. Let's understand what was happening post-independent, because all of this has a background. Now, post-independent India, surprisingly, the interfacing codes which could ensure that the urban environment envisioned by an urban designer was never made. This probably happened in cities like Lutyens, Delhi to a certain extent, in cities like Bhubaneswar, but subsequently, and even in Chandigarh, but later on, we kept on losing this art of designing the codes for this interfacing environment. Now, this is where things get murkier, which means only the codes which could determine how much resources can be accommodated within a parcel of land was written. The codes for achieving the quality environment was never written post-independence. Now, hence our bylaws only mentioned about densities, maximum built-up areas, etc. Some additional norms in building bylaws for height restrictions, setbacks, ground coverage were added, but actually they did not add too much value to the urban. And that is when we felt that the jigsaw puzzle in most urban areas started to fail the vision, or maybe in some cases the vision was not there. It was only about planning for resources.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is one of the main reasons why Indian city development seemed like a failure. I'm not saying it's a complete failure because we still have some success stories.
Yeah.
But yes, most of the cities seem like a failure. We have now some city extensions in the past couple of decades definitely attempted to address these. Mm-hmm. There are examples like Rajarhat, some attempts, Gift City, some attempts, Amravati, some attempts. What was required at this point of time was calling out a need for a paradigm shift. It was happening too piecemeal. We needed to move from the traditional codes to a new set of codes which aims to attain quality. Now, internationally, cities lay more emphasis on codes which ensure that the puzzle is built piece by piece as per the design guidelines. made by the urban design.
Okay.
These set of codes are called form-based codes.
Okay.
In India, MOHUPA, which is the agency responsible for looking after urban development, issued a guidelines for form-based codes.
Okay.
So they're technically supposed to transition from the traditional codes to form-based codes. What are form-based codes? Let's understand that. Now, form-based codes also derive their genesis from the resource planning, typically like our traditional building bylaws did.
Okay.
But this time, form-based codes lay more emphasis on the design regulation rather than regulation of only resources, right? Which means the architect has to first plan how his design within a plot ensures a certain street frontage, responds to the visual access of the nearby boulevards, allows the buildings to create backdrops and interfaces for adjoining public spaces, and much more. Now, as a result, architectural design within a plot contributes towards creation of quality urban environment. That's one of the biggest advantage of form-based codes. And this is not something that I am saying. This is what even MOHUPA's guidelines say, and this is the international practice. Now, one of the biggest difference between traditional Indian building bylaws and form-based codes is that the former was a set of control-based codes.
Mm-hmm.
So the building bylaws told us what not to do and what are the penal actions if you go wrong, which binds the architect with multiple conditions. On the other hand, form-based codes are aimed towards facilitating design outcome. It gives a higher weightage towards design flexibility to architect without compromising on any safety parameters like fire rules, airport-related height restrictions, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in my personal opinion, I refer to traditional building bylaws as imperial directives, the way they are written, the way they are enforced, and even the intent, because the intent of the traditional building bylaws is to make sure that there are no violations. Whereas the form-based codes, the focus is to ensure that a quality urban environment is built. And it gives some amount of flexibility and weightage to an architectural design exercise. So that's where now the whole world is moving, and that's where even Indian cities are also supposed to move.
So now we talked about the bylaws, we talked about the different bodies which are there. We have missed out on one of the most important part, which is our citizens. The cities that we have built, done with looking at the needs of our citizens, how are they built up?